Hello everybody, Pat here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today you're gonna come behind the scenes with me as I record a couple podcast episodes. It also comes with a special announcement about these episodes and something new that we're trying to both take advantage of the success we've had on the platform of podcasts and also to see what we can do to deepen the relationship with the audience. So I'll tell you more about that in just a second, but welcome in. Thank you so much. If you're here live, say hello to your friends here in the chat. If you're here watching the replay, hashtag team replay in the comments section. What's up, GTO, Andrew, Sue, Bernard? We got Stephanie, John, Sherry, Antonica, GTO. Welcome in. Chinad, thank you. Fit over 50. Glad you're here. Glad you're spending time with me today. I will let you know up front that we're going to be ending about 10 minutes early because I have a webinar at the top of the hour for the community/membership website training later today. If you're going to check that out, if you want to learn more about that. You can check it out at smartpassiveincome.com/webinars if you want to sign up and get access to that. It's totally free. It's in an hour. And it's with the team over at Circle, which is where we run SPI Pro, our premium membership, to talk all about that. But for right now, we're talking podcasting. And specifically, you're just going to hear me, just like before, fumble, make mistakes. You're going to get inside my brain a little bit as I create some of this stuff. And that's some of the most fun content because you see how really it is and how not it's perfect or how it's not perfect. It never is. It never is, but it's a process, right? Process and progress, not perfection. That's the idea here. So if you're ready for that, let me know in the chat with your favorite emoji as we watch the intro. Here we go.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream. All while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Awesome. I see Mackenzie here says, I'm confused. What can I do to help you? And I think this is important because we all get a little confused sometimes when we start something new, when we try something different. Podcasting is definitely one of those things that confused the crap out of me when I first started. My podcast started in 2010, and that was a year and a half after I committed to starting. It took me a long time to get over the fear of just putting myself out there, recording an episode, seeing what people would think about it. I was too afraid of what people would say about my voice. I was too afraid about what people would say about the shows, if it was even worth my time. I was a blogger back then, not a podcaster. I was very afraid to communicate with my real voice. But then I finally got it done, and I often say, and as my good friend John Lee Dumas told me, you got to be a disaster before you become the master, right? And so that's really what it's about. So let's take you to today. We are now 460 some odd episodes in the Smart Passive Income podcast. We're over 1,000 episodes of the Ask Pat podcast. And that's a lot of podcasts, by the way. I have a show with my son called All of Your Beeswax. I had one that was for the food trucker business that I started, and then I sold that. I had another one that was with my buddy Chris Ducker, and we kind of sunset that, although it's still there, and it's still getting downloads today. The evergreenness of podcasting is real, my friends. But where does that take us for today? Well, last year was an interesting year, obviously, for many reasons. Welcome to day 333. By the way, that is insane. Day 333 in a row. High five. Just very thankful that you're still here with me. Some of you have been in every single stream, which is incredible. So you know what it was like when the pandemic started last year. And of course, we was really, really paying attention to what was working, what wasn't in our business. Obviously, the business changed. Flynn Con did not happen, my live event in San Diego. Our course sales went down a little bit in the beginning because people were very afraid to spend money on things. They've since gone back up, and that's been really great. We've been able to serve more people from everything from helping them start email lists and growing their email list to affiliate marketing, podcasting, webinars, etc. We have a new course that we're working on later this year about online courses, which is really great. We've made over $3 million in online courses over the last 3 years, which is just truly incredible. But the podcast really has been the number one thing that has introduced us to more people, that has been, in my opinion, the most valuable, and that has also created the most long-lasting relationships, not just with the people who have been on the show with me, but also the audience. People listen to podcasts much longer than they watch videos. People are subscribed and they become fans much easier than they can with a blog post. So in my opinion, podcasting is still something that's very important to consider. And we're just still in the early days, my friends. We are still in the early days. We are still less than 2 million podcasts out there in the world. Compare that to 50 million active YouTube channels and 500 million active blogs, right? Mackenzie, high five. That one's for you too. And if you're driving, please be safe. Don't worry about chatting. Worry about the road. We're here for you anyway. So King Skull Derek says hi. Hi, King Skull Derek. We got Mackenzie, Andrew, Shonda, Jeff the ref in the house, Outsider Jess. Now you're on the inside. Ned and Queen Bee, welcome in. So yeah. So what are we doing different this year? Because guess what? We want to double down on podcasts. So here's the plan. And then we're going to spend a few minutes planning what I'm going to be recording next. And then you're going to get to hear me behind the scenes actually record this thing and get some work done. So I thought this would be fun so that you could kind of get in on the process. But here's what's happening. And this is the first time I'm announcing this. Starting very soon, we're going to have a second episode of the week. We've been one episode per week for years. I think for 9 years. Starting later this month, you're going to hear a second episode of the week. So we have our Wednesday episodes that come out, and that's been coming out, and that's still going to happen. Mostly interviews, sometimes solo shows, but we go deep into a specific topic typically. Fridays, you're going to get a second episode of the week, and it's going to be what we're going to call our follow-up Friday episodes. Because, number one, people have been asking for a lot more of just me, but I didn't want to sacrifice the interviews that have been so great and the amazing content and the guests that we've been speaking with. So we're adding a second episode of the week that comes out on Friday. No, it's not a Pokemon podcast. I've already been invited on Pokemon podcasts, actually, which has been super fun. It's actually really cool to just sit down and chat with people about this hobby, which I've never had anything like that before. But a second podcast episode that is just me, that goes more in depth about the topic that was talked about on Wednesday. So it's a follow-up episode. And this will be really cool because we're not going to have a huge giant intro. It'll just go music right to the show, and it's just going to be just me. But what this also does is it provides us an opportunity to add more real estate for potentially advertisers. Should advertisers that do exist and matter and want to get on the show that seem to align with our audience, should they exist? Should they want that spot? Cool, now we have more real estate. So hypothetically speaking, this should nearly double our numbers. And we're already getting nearly 100,000, 150,000 downloads per episode. So now these shorter episodes, it's been one of the things that a lot of people say about the Ask Pat podcast. They love the Ask Pat podcast because it's much shorter. These more in-depth interviews go a lot longer. So there could be some people who will just tune in on Friday to get the sort of gist, the summary, and the follow-up. But there's going to be some people who are obviously going to be listening to both. So I'm really excited about that. And we're already in the works. And today I'm going to be recording a couple of those episodes, about probably just one, but maybe two of those episodes based on interviews that have already happened. I will also share with you that I had probably the most intimidating interview that I've ever done. Not because I was intimidating to the person, but because the person I was interviewing was completely intimidating to me. And I'll tell you a quick story about this because this is, again, getting inside my head. But typically I come with a lot of confidence in interviews. But this time, because of the guest and his qualifications and credentials, I was quite scared. This person's name is Chris Voss. He is the author of Never Split the Difference, a very popular book that is all about negotiation, which means this guy can talk. And this guy worked at the FBI as the head of hostage negotiation for 24 years. And I've heard him on shows before. He can be quite blunt, and he can be quite just short. Not necessarily aggressive or mean, just he only says the right things. He doesn't babble, as any good negotiator wouldn't do. And started the interview. He's like super close to the camera. He's like this close, like looking at me. He's got his headphones on, and he's very short with his answers, which is very challenging as a podcaster to get like short answers because you need to keep it going. And you'll hear the interview. It comes out in May, but I'll be recording an episode, the follow-up Friday episode later. I'm not going to be recording that one today because I have some other ones that are more pressing. But my podcast manager had said, hey, we're a little bit behind on these follow-up episodes. We need to get ahead on them. So that's kind of why I'm going to be recording them today. You're going to hear me record one or two of them based on episodes that are coming out very shortly here. And you will get a little bit of behind the scenes on that. But yeah, Chris Voss, awesome. And it was a really good episode for sure. It's pretty out. It was it was a great episode. I asked some pretty good questions, I feel, that help us understand how to use negotiation, how to read body language, how to do this in our business, how to do this in our personal life. It was so much fun. And so we got to chat, and he got loose, and he started laughing. So, whew, we got over that. But yeah, that was fun. That was super fun. So, what are we recording today? So we're going to be recording a couple, hopefully, of these follow-up Friday episodes. Speaking of Friday, tomorrow is Friday, which means we have game day, my friends, game day. Game day means we don't talk about a particular topic. We have some fun. We play some games. I embarrass myself every once in a while. We spin the wheel, give away some prizes. Tomorrow's game day, Friday fun day here on the chat. Will actually start at 11:30 a.m. So a little bit later than normal, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. So 15 minutes from now, 24 hours from then, we'll start the game day tomorrow. You'll see a preview of the waiting room when that is available, when I make it each night. But if you want to go directly to the income stream ever, just go to patflynn.com/theincomestream and you'll be fine. You'll find your way. patflynn.com/theincomestream. What's up, Ryan? Good to see you. Lex, Bill, Peasant Uprising. Big shout out to also all of the amazing moderators that are here too. But I'm going to take you into my content pipeline. So this is my content pipeline here. And this is where I sort of work toward building out the content for the rest of the year. And as you can see here, these are episodes that are being published. Actually, this one right now is the one that was previously published. Next week's is a great one. How your life experiences translate into serving others online and on stage with Daryl Stinson. He was a guest in our Black Entrepreneurs episode last year, and he was a fan favorite. So we wanted to bring him back on, and he's amazing. And that's next week. After that, we talk all about podcast advertising. Then we have these ones here, which is when we start actually it's in March when we start those follow-up Friday episodes. So I've already recorded a couple. We can see them here, and I've already recorded the one specific to, I need to go into, I need to record episode 470. So the numbers will change because every Friday episode will take a number, right? So this is why these ones are spaced out like this, right? So 61, 62, 63, and then 64 is a solo show that I did here. It's not Employee Appreciation Day. And then one with Gino Wickman, the author of Rocket Fuel. And then I already recorded that one. So this one I also already recorded, I believe. Nope, 68. Okay, yeah, that's the one I'm going to record today. So this one here, deep dive into episode 467. So this is my process. And again, this is new for me too, because we have just recently added these episodes in. So 468 will be from Kristen. That's the episode where I recorded Kristen Bohr from Barefoot Theory. She went on a month-long sabbatical that completely changed everything for her business, her life. And this idea of sort of like removing yourself from the business every once in a while is what I'm going to be discussing for about 15 minutes. So you'll be able to hear me as I get through that. But I'm going to outline a little bit of the path first so that you can see that I can do this. I don't just sort of hit record and go. I do plan a little bit, and you'll get that too. And then 470 will be the episode after 469. In episode 469, I interviewed a guy named Nick from PokeRev. For those of you in the chat who know PokeRev, let me know. Big shout out to Nick from PokeRev. And I interviewed him, and this is the episode that was already recorded, how Nick turned his passion into a diverse entrepreneurial goldmine. And I interview him. And then I'm going to talk about Nick's story a little bit, and probably something more related to something that I can talk about with relation to turning a hobby or a passion into something like that. So into a business like that. So those are the episodes I plan on recording, the follow-ups to each of those episodes. So this first one, which is going to be 468, I got my post notes ready. This is where I start every time I create something new. I'm going to pull up the chat here because I made it disappear. Another sip of coffee. Jeremy says, oh, I can see an episode with PokeRev coming. Yep. That's going to be episode 469 on March 24th. So that'll come out. So we get deep. We get deep into how he does what he does, his monetization strategies, his just day, right? So that's going to be really interesting. Bill says, so Pat is doing intros, outros for his voice guy today? No, I'm not doing that. Loving the content pipeline. Good stuff. This is great to see. Process priceless. Thank you, Mark. Cool. Hola. What's up, Siddharth? Good to see you here. Okay, so we're, again, recording a brand new episode of a brand new kind of episode of the podcast, which is we're calling our follow-up Fridays. So Wednesdays, we have our normal interviews or really deep, in-depth podcast episodes about a specific topic. And then we have on Friday, my just 10, 15-minute follow-up on that. So I want to make it valuable. And typically value can come in just knowing exactly what an audience might be thinking. It can know what their struggles and pains are. So already coming to mind is this idea of, okay, if I want to go on a break like this, that's the one thing, like we talked in this episode with Kristen, who took, again, a month-long sabbatical, meaning like she just like left her business be. She went out, literally unplugged, and her business was up and running and still fine. So we talk about the benefits of that. We talk about what her approach was to that, but we don't get specific on how one can do that. So I do want to talk about a book called Clockwork. I do want to talk about systems. So again, I'm just writing one idea per post-it note. I do recycle them, so don't worry. Clockwork book. I do want to talk about systems, having systems in place. Systems. I want to talk about team and responsibility. Team and responsibility. And if I can get maybe 5 things in here, I can spend maybe 3 minutes on each. That could work really, really well. So we got systems, building SOPs, right? I'm going to put that in here too. And this isn't the nice handwriting. Like, I'm not worried about that. Nobody's going to see this. This is just, that's supposed to be SOP and a tiny S. It doesn't even look good. Clockwork Orange. No, not that kitty. A book called Clockwork by, I believe, Mike Michalowicz. Clockwork Mike. And that is Mike Michalowicz, who also wrote the book Profit First. You might remember Profit First, right? So let me just write that here. I'll show you all my notes in just a minute. I don't have a top-down view right now. Hey, Maya's in the house. What's up, Maya? I just saw you a second ago in office hours. Sherry in the house. Gabriella, welcome. David, good to see you back. Appreciate it, my friends. Okay, so again, I'm brainstorming ideas for this short 15-minute podcast episode that you're going to hear me record that will insert its way into the podcast feed on our brand new follow-up Fridays. And again, our one feed, which has just been 1 episode per week, is now going to have 2 episodes per week starting in March, which is really neat. Tom says, you're a cool dude, Pat, dropping valuable knowledge. Thanks, bro. You're welcome. You're welcome. And you have a podcast as well, so this is really cool. So again, I have 3 notes so far. I want to find maybe 2 more things that I could speak about. I think telling a story is very important. And if I could tell a story, I got a story, just came to mind. I'm going to talk about Hawaii and unplugging versus just still connected. So when I went to Hawaii, you'll hear this story, but I'll just tell a quick story. Again, I just have, this is the note. This will be a trigger for me to just tell that story. Hawaii, unplugging versus still connected. And I think I want to start with that. So the cool thing about Post-it notes is I can like move things around, right? So this is where I want to start with a story, because I think there's a very important lesson there where I've tried to unplug and it's been hard. And I think it's going to be valuable for people to listen to that because they'll have just listened to the episode with Kristen, who said she was able to do this. And then we go, okay, what are we going to do about this? It's going to be hard to unplug. What can we do? Well, we have some resources. So number 1, we'll talk about Clockwork in a book. And in that book, I'll tell you why I'm bringing that up in when I'm actually recording. I think systems are great, teams and responsibility. And then the last thing I'm going to share is this idea of question says, what about spam and people impersonating you? It comes with the territory, Don. It's just when you get popular, people want to take advantage of that, and that's not cool. I've had people use my image on advertisements that are for adult censored type things. Not cool, not cool. And of course, I have an attorney that now helps take care of those kinds of things. But the spam that you saw the other day, somebody was just using my name as the account, used the same image, and was spamming some cryptocurrency stuff. And all you have to do is hide them from the channel, and their comments won't be seen ever again. So as they come in, you either have an admin or a moderator or yourself do that, and then go from there. Okay. I'm also going to put one, reiterate. Why take a break? Plus kinds of breaks. Okay. Boom. Now I'm hoping that I can record these episodes. I think it can work because I did this before, but I'm going to record them on my podcast mic, which is the mic that I always use for podcasting. It just sounds a little bit more, broadcasty, more podcasty versus the sort of live setting that we have here. And then I want to finish off by talking about start small. Start small and, mental health, just tying it back into mental health. And try to get into a quarterly breaks, a rhythm. Okay. If you were live in this room with Pat, I wish your family abundant health, and I wish you financial success and utmost value in your products and services to the community. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you for that. I'm going to pop you up on here as a thank you. And that's to everybody, right? Not just people who are here live, but everybody in the world, everybody who's watching the replay. Thank you. Cheers to you for that. I was going to do a sound effect, but it wouldn't sound right if I was like, cheers. Right? This is more of a high five. Okay. Did I design my pipeline, or is that a template? That is a template. Sorry. I didn't design it. Somebody on my team designed it. Let me actually see before I hit record here and actually record this episode. Again, I'm going to finish a little bit early today because I have a webinar coming up. But I want to do spreadsheet. I want to try to find the spreadsheet that I can share with y'all. Okay. So this is in Slack. And Mindy on my team created this here. I'm going to copy this link and click on it really quick to see if this pops up. Okay. You can do it. Cool. So it looks like if you'd like your own copy of this, I'd be more than happy to give it to you. So I'm going to put a comment in the chat here, smartpassiveincome.com/master-calendar. smartpassiveincome.com/master-calendar. If you go to smartpassiveincome.com/master-calendar, you can just follow the instructions at the top to use this template for yourself. Save it to your own drive, and you're good to go there, right? You can do. So Mindy created this for you. She just did this last week. So smartpassiveincome.com/master-calendar. And if you ever get a chance to thank Mindy for that, that's good. And that'll take you through 2030. 2030. So it's there. It's there. And if any of you remember that link, Master Calendar, just keep that in mind for the future in case you need it. smartpassiveincome.com/master-calendar. Very cool. So that'll give you a spreadsheet that looks similar to this one here that we use to insert our blog content, our podcast content. You can do what you want with it. But again, smartpassiveincome.com/master-calendar. Thank you, Mindy. I think because I kept asking her, because I think it was like Grandma Goody asked a couple times, a few other people in SPI Pro asked, and she's just like, you know what? I'm going to create this so I never have to create it again. Here it is through 2030. So if you're in SPI Pro, go ahead and thank Mindy, or if you ever get a chance to see her in person at an event later down the road. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop stalling. What I'm going to do, now that you've seen the plan, now that you've seen the spreadsheet, and you got the spreadsheet, smartpassiveincome.com/master-calendar, I'm going to go into where I go to record podcasts. So I'm going to go to Adobe Audition, and I'm going to open this up here so you should see it. I'm going to open that one later. Now, again, I'm going to keep the chat up, and please help me if the audio goes weird. I'm going to go to Adobe Audition, Preferences, and Audio Hardware. And it looks like the input is the MacBook Pro microphone. That's not what I want. I want the Scarlett 2i2. Yes. Okay, you can still hear me, right? Okay, so that's good. And I want my output speakers. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine for now. Okay, that should be good. So I'm going to do a test recording really quick. This will be for episode, what is this? What episode did I say it was? 468. Check, check, mic check, 1, 2, 3, podcasting, yay. Hi, everybody. Check, check, mic check, 1, 2, 3, podcasting, yay. Hi, everybody. Check, check, mic check, 1, 2, 3, podcast. You can make a song out of anything. It's pretty cool. Okay, it looks like it worked well. Let me know if that actually came through. And then what I'm going to do, what has changed in your lighting gear? Thanks, Luis. Here's what's changed. I no longer have the light directly pointed at me. I have the light pointed away, but on full blast. So it actually like makes the room more brighter, but without the harsh light. And it just adds a nice little wash on my face versus like before it almost looked like I was in the dungeon or in a basement or something like that. Okay. So I have my Post-it notes. So here is note number 1. It says retreats and sabbaticals, why take a break, and the kinds of breaks you can take. And I just did these Post-it notes on the fly earlier, right? Breaker. Hawaii, that triggers the story I'm going to tell about a time when I went to Hawaii, but I didn't actually unplug like I should have. And that's not fair. Clockwork, a book that I'm going to talk about really quick. Systems and SOPs, or standard operating procedures. Next, team and responsibility. I'm working my camera today, as you can see. Team responsibility. And then to finish off, start small, affects your mental health. Thank you for listening, etc., etc., etc. So the way that these episodes, these Friday follow-up episodes will work is that the intro music will already be playing, and then it'll just go right into it, and we'll start, and we'll go from there. Okay, Jay, see y'all. Thank you so much for that kind note earlier, and we appreciate you. Okay, I think we're ready to go. This should take us through this one episode. I might make a couple mistakes, and we'll just start there, and I won't probably record another one because I have to get ready for the webinar happening at the top of the hour. So this is probably where we'll finish off. Probably where we're going to finish off. 88 people in the room. Give me a fire emoji to light me up here before we go, or before we hit record. And we'll just kind of shimmy through this. So let's do it. Okay. Hey, Tina. Good to see you. All right, I'm going to turn the chat off because I'm just not going to look at it right now. I'm going to be recording a podcast. Again, this is our Friday follow-up podcast, about a 15-minute episode. I do look at the clock, and just to kind of make sure I'm going to where I need to go. I have about 5 things I want to talk about that I just brainstormed in front of all of you that I have as just little notes. I didn't script the whole thing out. I'm just trusting myself to tell the story about when I went to Hawaii and I tried to unplug and I wasn't, and different ways that we can sort of solve that problem. Cool? Cool. smartpassiveincome.com/mastercalendar, Eric. Okay, here we go. Okay, here I go again, stalling every time I'm about to hit record. You see me, and I just like pick up the phone, I fidget. It's so funny. And here I am. I'm like, okay, stop. Okay. Woo! All right, we got this. We got this. I hope it helps you to see me kind of in this weird state of mind. Hey, thanks for listening to the... No, okay, that's not where I want to start. Taking a break. Something I think a lot of us need to do more of. And if you've ever been overwhelmed, or if you've ever been even... Sometimes we just got to take a break. And if you've ever felt overwhelmed, if you've ever felt like you were drowning in the work that you were doing, or just life in general, it's important to walk away for just a little bit sometimes, to take a breath, to take a breather. And maybe that sometimes is going to be just a walk during the day, or maybe it's going to be a whole month off to just escape and then come back with even more energy. If you listened to the previous episode with Kristen Bohr from Barefoot Theory, that is episode 467, you will have heard her story about how she took an entire month off near the end of 2020 and all the amazing things that happened to her as a result. How much more clarity she had, a lot more things that she could do to just bring more energy back to her business. And even though she walked away from her business for an entire month, she actually made a lot of money. In fact, more money than she ever had before, which is the dream, right? The ability to walk away from a business for just a little bit of time and come back to it even stronger and see that the business not just didn't crumble, but actually was able to thrive. We did talk a little bit in that episode. Again, make sure you listen to that episode if you haven't already about how she did this. But I wanted to explore a little bit more deeply today in our follow-up Friday episode here on the Smart Passive Income podcast about how we can make sure and ensure that when we approach these breaks, we're doing it right, and how we can get over the fear that we might have about walking away from a business and potentially having it crumble. In most cases, we often think about the worst case scenario of things, and then we start telling ourselves that that's what's going to happen, and that story that's just completely made up begins to start to be something that dictates what it is that we do or what we don't do, and that's not cool, right? So I wanted to share a story with you to start with. And this is a story about Hawaii. I love Hawaii. I have a couple kids with Hawaiian names. No, we are not Hawaiian. We just love it so much. My wife and I went to Hawaii for our honeymoon, but we continue to go back. And so we went back in 2019, back when we could travel. And I remember specifically thinking, okay, for this week, just 1 week, I'm going to unplug as much as I can. In fact, I want to unplug entirely. It was vacation during the summer. And of course, the business was running, and I had multiple businesses. The Switch Pod was just thriving right at this time. So I had a lot of things to think about, but I knew it was going to be important for me to walk away and to escape for a little bit with the family and just be fully engaged with them. And if I were to grade my vacation in 2019 in Hawaii, in terms of how well did I unplug, I would probably grade myself a C. It's a pass. I did unplug, but not entirely. And that's not okay, because it didn't really serve the purpose of what we had talked about last week with Kristen, or in the last episode with Kristen, or with this idea of, stepping away fully so that you can come back with even more energy. And in retrospect, I'm trying to think about why I didn't unplug. Part of it is just because of who I am in nature. It's very difficult for me to not think about the things that I'm most excited about, and I'm always excited about my business. Part of it, perhaps, is trust issues with the people who are in the business, and that's not fair, because I did set up the business in a way for me to walk away, and it's almost unfair to feel like I always have to be watching over people and making sure that things are okay and that there's no fires going on. I mean, literally, I remember waking up, looking out the window, feeling the cool tropical breeze in the warm sun. It's like a perfect combo. And then checking my email. Not cool, Pat. Not cool. There were times where we were on excursions. We went through an amazing aqueduct system in the Big Island, and it was beautiful. That entire time, because it was completely engaging, I did not look at my phone. I did not think about my business. I was with my family entirely at the time. But of course, later that evening, going back into the hotel room, pick up the phone, just check to make sure everything's okay. And that's not fair to the team. They've been put in place to be responsible for certain things, and it's almost feeling like, well, do I not trust them enough? And of course, if there is an emergency of any kind, and this is the sort of first fail-safe here, is that if there's anything that's like absolutely a 911 red alert emergency, they have my number. And this is something that I've told my assistant Jess and even people on my team now. If ever I do step away, now I know okay, nothing's on fire because I haven't gotten a message about it. And so I'm less likely to now check my phone or to check email or to work on something while I'm there. Another issue that I had was I actually brought equipment to record a podcast episode. Yeah, to Hawaii. There was an episode of the podcast not too long ago that featured Stu McLaren, an amazing person when it comes to how to create membership communities and paid communities and such. And the only time that he was available was when I was on this trip. So I took this equipment and I set it up, and it was actually, I made more of a big deal than it had to be. I actually turned it into an entire video series of how I was able to record a podcast on the go. So here I was late at night in the hotel room while the kids were asleep, creating a video showing off all my equipment and the equipment that I use to record this. This does not sound like a vacation, does it? Not cool. And again, in retrospect, thinking about it, definitely wish I had done it differently, because the truth is I could have got to later. The truth is nothing was going to break because I have this amazing team that's behind me, and it wasn't fair to my family. It wasn't fair to my family. And even though at the times when I was working was when, the family was napping or, doing something else or asleep or whatnot, still not cool for me mentally, because I have to take a break. This is what the biggest realization from Kristen's episode was that, like, she didn't have to take this sabbatical, but she needed to take this sabbatical. And she only knew that for real when she came back and realized, wow, all these new opportunities opened up as a result. She was able to learn a new skill that she could then bring back into the business. She had more joy and had a lot more energy to go back into it. And for me, thinking about this particular trip, and this is not the first time where I went on a trip and still did work, I could have come back with more renewed energy, like we do every single year when we hit New Year's, and we have this renewed energy because it's a new year, new you sometimes. And I think that we could take that approach when we take these little sabbaticals, whether they're one day off or a month off. I know Michael Hyatt, somebody who I admire greatly, who has inspired me to build a team, who's inspired me to treat my business in the way that I do and have family be a part of it as well. He takes a 2-month break. Yet his business has way more team members, makes a lot more money, and so it's not impossible. So I want to give you some resources to help you, because in the episode with Kristen, we didn't talk super deeply about how to go about doing this, but I want to make sure that we understand if we need the roadmap on how to actually get the business to a point where we can take 4 weeks off, for example, then what do we need to do? Well, there's a book by a man named Mike Michalowicz, who will be on the podcast very soon. He is the author of Clockwork, but he's also the author of several other books too, one that you may have heard of before called Profit First. And his book Clockwork is just as important, if not even more important, than Profit First. Because in addition to Profit First, we have to think about our mental health first, in my opinion, right? So this book, it actually challenges you. And it challenges you to consider how you might be able to form your business or mold your business in a way where you can take a 4-week sabbatical, or just take time for 4 weeks off, where the business will continue to run and even thrive. I know Kristen read it. A lot of people who are in my accelerator program read it. We kind of all read it together. And it is a book I highly recommend to you too as well. And Clockwork, the idea behind it is to be able to understand the moving parts of your business and how to keep things ticking like a clock, even when you're not there. And this involves a couple other things that I want to talk about. Number one is creating systems in your business. The way to start removing yourself from the work that you do, yet still have those things happen, or to have the ability to do things more efficiently, is to literally learn about the systems. You create systems by understanding the things that have to be repeated in the business that you have. Whether it be you recording a podcast episode and having a system behind that, recording YouTube videos and having a system behind that, managing your finances and having a system about that, whatever it is it might be, from team meetings and the governance of your business, to the finances, to the content that you create, to the products that you create, to the systems to create an online course so that you can create multiple. You save time and you save money, but also you create your ability to have what's called standard operating procedures, or SOPs as they're known. And SOPs are great because they become the formula for how not just you, but how anybody on your team can get a certain task done. And SOPs are something that can be made a little bit rough, right? Here's just a checklist of all the things we need to do when we create a podcast episode, or they can be formalized and systematized even more. You can put them into a tool like Trello or Monday.com or Notion. And those tools allow for other people to be involved and to even see these lists, these to-do lists, these systems, to be able to go down the line and have them done. And this is something that helps ensure two things. Number one, that every time something is done, it's done the same way. This is why McDonald's is the way it is. There's a specific standard operating procedure for when you buy a McDonald's franchise. You do it this way, and this is how they keep things the same no matter what. You can get your chicken nuggets here. They're going to taste the same as the chicken nuggets there. And yes, you might still also get Pokemon cards to go along with them too, unless they're out. And the SOPs, these systems, help you when it comes to hiring. So even if you're a solopreneur, creating a system for yourself then allows you to go, okay, person who I just hired, I want to have this done. This is how to do it. Just go down the list. There's no confusion anymore. I would, however, recommend that if you're going to be working with a team and you give them an SOP that you've created for something, to empower them also to help make that SOP even better, to help make the process faster, more efficient, and done with more quality. Because these people who you might hire might actually be better and faster than you were. And that empowers them and gives them responsibility and makes them feel more a part of the process as well, whether they're contracted or employees too. So that's SOPs. But as we finish up here with this conversation, let's talk about your team. Because your team is really the magic behind how you can create these things in an automated fashion. Yes, you can just have tools, you can have systems, you can have software do a lot of this for you. This takes me back to when I first started my business online back in 2008, helping people pass an architectural exam. I had a system in place, very much inspired by Tim Ferriss and the 4-hour work week. No, he does not have 4-hour work weeks, but it's just this idea that you can build systems, that you can have a team, that you can have software that can remove yourself from your business so that potentially you could have a 4-hour work week. But no, he's even self-proclaimed, said that name has gotten him in trouble because it's not actually about the 4-hour work week. It's about the systems that you put into place. But in addition to software, like I had when I built my business, people could buy my ebook or audiobook to help them pass an architectural exam. It would then get automatically delivered to them because of the system and software that I was using. And then money would come into my PayPal account. So literally, it was completely hands-off. Still requires maintenance. There's nothing as 100% fully for life automated passive income. But it's definitely great when you can set these things up ahead of time and have these systems in place. Now, there's going to be some cases where there's going to need to be people involved. And this is where a lot of us feel trapped. We're building a business to get out of a trap, only to put ourselves into a new trap because we are so involved in everything. And Clockwork will help you begin to understand how you can develop systems and a team and people to take yourself out of that process even more. It's to a point now in my business where I can record a podcast episode just like this one right here. And I can share it on Dropbox. And as soon as that happens, a member on my team gets notified. They then edit the show, which then it gets put into another folder that then notifies the second person who's in charge of the podcast to then put it on our Buzzsprout host, to then put it on a podcast page on our website with the player and everything's done. And my only thing that I need to do is record these episodes or do these interviews. Everything else is taken care of. Now that's something to work toward, but that wouldn't happen without my team or without the people who you might be able to hire as a contractor who can then be a part of this system, right? But again, the beauty of this is when you have an SOP or a standard operating procedure, you can share it with others and you can have them get better at it. Or if somebody gets, fired or laid off or you have to let people go, you can bring somebody else new in and they can just pick up right where you left off, right? But it's this idea of removing yourself. And part of removing yourself is making others responsible for things. And that's where I've really started to see the business flourish, even as I take myself out of it. And this happens because certain team members are now stepping up and they're feeling responsible. And when they feel responsible, things get done. As long as it fulfills that commander's intent, I don't, yes, here's how to do it, but see how you might be able to do it better. But this is the intent of the work that you're doing. Let's get it done. It's great because they can even get it done in a shorter period of time and get some more time off. It's not about how much time they're working. It's about the work that they do and how it adds to the value that we are offering our community. So this is sort of just like a brain dump of things that come to mind as, we listened to Kristen in episode 467. And this episode, I hope, gives you some at least strategies and starting points for what you can do to start to minimize the amount of effort that you're putting into the business, but maximizing your efficiencies, putting your work into the parts of your business that should be just you, and having other teams, software, tools, and of course, systems in place to help you get to the point where you can take time off and the business can continue to run. That is how you begin to start having passive income. Passive income is not something that you start out with. You can't go to the beach, open up your laptop in a hammock, like the cover of 4-Hour Workweek, and begin to start making money. The business has to happen first. You have to solve people's problems. You have to create something. It's going to be very hands-on, especially if you're a consultant or a coach or doing it hands-on as a service. Later, you can start adding team members, systems, standard operating procedures to take yourself out of it. And then you can take those breaks that you need. Business is about seasons. It's never going to be a straight shot from A to Z. It's never going to be perfectly, at a certain mileage per hour. It's going to be seasons. So there are going to be times where it's going to be all you. There's going to be times where it's going to be others supporting you. There's going to be times where you're going to need to work with them even harder to make sure that they're getting everything done the way it should be and that systems are put into place the way they should be. And then there are seasons when you find that everything's working in concert such that you could go to Hawaii and actually take time off and unplug without worry. And that's where that responsibility with the team comes from. It is not okay of me as the CEO of the company to worry if I've put that responsibility on somebody else. Something that they want to do, something that they're paid to do. That would mean that I'm not hiring for the right reasons. And I'm finally now at a point where I know that if I go on another trip, I can completely unplug and everything will just be fine. And I'll come back even stronger with even more excitement to bring to the energy with the podcast, the YouTube videos, the live streams, etc. So if you're going to take a sabbatical or you're thinking about doing this, no, you don't have to start with 4 weeks off like Kristen did or what we talk about in Clockwork. What about a day? Start small and grow from there. And I just want to encourage you to, as you plan the rest of your year and each year as you plan your future, to think about how you can bake in time for you, for your family, your loved ones, away from the work that is, yes, important. But unless you are at your best level, your work will not be at its best level either. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. I highly recommend you subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much. And I'm really, really enjoying these Follow-Up Friday episodes. They allow me to go a little bit deeper into a lot of the stuff that we cover in the midweek interview or midweek topic where, I just don't want to distract or take time away from our special guest who we're just so honored to have on the show. So Kristen, thank you so much for your inspiration. Looking forward to serving you in next week's episode. In fact, it's going to be a banger. I promise you. We have a special guest who's taken his passion and is making a gold mine out of it. And he's doing it in such a way where he's growing so fast. I uncover all those strategies and more. So make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for all the support. I appreciate you. And as always, Team Flynn for the win. Woo. Okay. So, how did that work? The Post-it notes helped a lot. Having that pathway of one thing leading into the next. I look down at it every once in a while. I'm so sorry I didn't share I'm so sorry I didn't share my little picture. I should have shared that picture, but I turned it off to not be in the way earlier. But now that episode's done. So now I'm going to do what's most important. I'm going to hit File, Save As, and then I'm going to save it to where I need to save it. If we didn't do that, that would be bad. So let's go into podcast. Let's go into main episodes. We're going to go here and go new folder 468. Is that already taken? Okay, it is already taken. 468 is right here. And save. Okay. So there you go. We're done. Okay, so that took, overall planning, getting an episode out, 30 minutes. You saw it happen in real time. Is that how it should be from the beginning? No. It's impossible to get to that level unless you have a little bit of, maybe even just a couple months. But again, I'm forcing myself to just go, right? I'm not scripting out the story. I'm not, I have a hook in the beginning that I thought about, which is related to the previous episode, because this is a special episode of the podcast that relates to the previous episode. And then I started with what? I started with a story. The story provides context. The story makes it relatable. The story allows for meaning behind the things I'm about to teach. And so that's a really quick, easy strategy if you want to do something like a podcast episode. Podcasts are meant for storytelling, and it's a great way to do it. But Bill says, so you save the episode, then do they get linked to the original episode? Yeah. I mean, in the podcast description of this episode, we'll have the link to the other one. Plus, a person who finds this can easily just scroll to the previous episode, so I don't have to worry too much about that. Gabriella says, Pat, do you use any tools that helps delegate what tasks are assigned to your team after a podcast episode is uploaded? You record, who uploads, create show notes, edits the interview, etc. Yes, so we use CoSchedule. CoSchedule. That creates the draft of the blog post / podcast episode in WordPress, and then in CoSchedule for each individual item, we have a template because it's the same type of work every single time. So when we create a new draft, we just say, oh, this is use the podcast episode draft or template, in CoSchedule, which has all the to-dos, and then it also tags the people who are responsible for those things and a deadline for when those things need to be done by. Whew, okay. How long should a podcast be in order for it to be effective? As long as it needs to be to give the value that you want to give. That's the answer. It doesn't need to be, I mean, there's some episodes of podcasts that I know, like the Quick and Dirty Tips series, that's 3 minutes, but it's like the exact tip that you need. And there's some episodes that are valuable because they're 4 hours long and it's everything you need to know about Genghis Khan, like on Hardcore History. So it's really up to what it is that the value is and not the, oh, I need to get to 30 minutes, right? Was I recording in the PR40 but letting us listen on the road? It doesn't sound like you were going through the PR40. Yeah, let me play it for you here so you can hear what it sounds like. All these new opportunities opened up as a result. She was able to learn a new skill that she could then bring back into the business. She had more joy and had a lot more. Now, if I fumbled, I would just stop, go right back, or you can keep going and your editor, if they know that that's your approach, they can take all those mistakes out. So, cool. Tina says, another banger video. Thank you. Yeah, video just published on Deep Pocket Monster as I was recording this. So I'm going to head out because I have a webinar that I need to go to, and it's going to be run by Andy over at Circle about community building, which will be really fun. So yes, you can use Gabriella CoSchedule for like your planning and things like that for sure. So definitely worth exploring. But if you don't have that, you can use something like Trello or Monday.com or Asana. Any of these project management tools, you can do the same thing. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Tomorrow's Friday Fun Day. We're going to start at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. That's 2:30 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to play some games, do some giveaways, have some fun. And I'm hoping that this episode and getting behind the scenes with me was really fun and exciting for you. And yeah, I got some work done too at the same time. So thank you. I appreciate you. Great job today. Have an amazing afternoon. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. And as always, Flynn. Team Flynn for the win. Thanks.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream. All while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Wow, totally screwed that one up. But thank you so much. I appreciate you. Sometimes it goes smooth like today. I think a little bit of pressure from you was helpful. Also, when you tell stories, you just tell the story. You can't really mess up that much. But if I were to mess up, it's okay. You just stop, keep going. That's what it's about. Keep going. Peace out. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate you.
Bruh.